Something so small yet so deadly. More Americans are dying from drug overdoses than ever before. Illicit pills pour into the country from across the border, but they originate from thousands of miles away. In this special report, we look at how China has weaponized the drug industry, the ways it's impacting every American, and what's being done to stop it. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. The deadliest threat facing Americans right now can be found in these little pills.
The number one killer of Americans today is fentanyl, and the number one manufacturer is China.
In 2021, enough fentanyl was seized by Customs and Border Patrol agents to kill every American nearly 7 times over. Drug overdose deaths topped 100,000 last year for the first time.
Almost every American knows somebody who's been affected by the opioid threat. Okay, where's that opioid threat coming from? It's coming from China. Fentanyl is almost 100% a product from the CCP. Almost every American knows somebody in the bondage of opioid addiction.
The CDC said deaths from fentanyl rose to over 71,000 in 2021. That's up from 57,000 in 2020. Fentanyl is one of the deadliest drugs circulating in the U.S. It can be 50 times more potent than heroin. Let's look at what makes fentanyl so deadly.
First of all, it's a highly addictive drug. And obviously, it takes a very small amount of fentanyl to overdose.
Former ICE special agent and author of Agent Under Fire, Victor Avila, notes that not all pills are made equal.
The cartels obviously do not care about the amount that they put in each individual pill. So you might have 2 separate pills that contain fentanyl, one where one person will not die, the other one will.
And it's not just dangerous for those consuming the pills.
We have a lot of police forces around the country that even being exposed to it by air or by touching it and absorbing it through your system, you can go into a overdose type of situation. And that's happened a lot to police officers and first responders.
A report from the Commission on Combating Synthetic Opioid Trafficking revealed that synthetic opioids were responsible for about 2/3 of drug overdose deaths in 2021. Most of those are attributed to fentanyl.
In terms of loss of life and damage to the economy, I think the report said that synthetic opioids have the effect of a slow motion weapon of mass destruction in the form of a pill.
And it's costly. The report estimates overdose deaths cost the U.S. economy $1 trillion a year. According to the Center for Economics and Business Research, China may overtake the U.S. as the #1 ranked economy by 2030. Back to the drug itself, where do these pills come from? And as to how the illicit substances are coming into the country,
the #1 area is that U.S.-Mexico border. It is wide open for any trafficker that wants to bring any illicit smuggling, not just humans and drugs, but arms trafficking. There's a lot of cash bulk smuggling, a lot of illicit activity. There's a lot of commercial fraud. There's a lot of pharmaceuticals that a lot of sometimes people don't think about, that all the toothpaste that you use, we want to make sure that the toothpaste is the right one and not a counterfeit toothpaste.
But before they get to Mexico, where do the drugs actually originate from?
In the city of Wuhan, and they send those drugs over to the western port of Mexico called Michoacan, and they use the Mexican drug cartel's network to distribute those through North America as well as on its way to Europe as well.
Law professor Ronald Reichlek says it's an international problem tied to cartels in Mexico and manufacturers in China.
China has a major role in Mexico in conjunction with the cartels, as they're the primary producers and providers of the precursors and chemicals to the cartels that produce the methamphetamine and fentanyl, especially the counterfeit pills. There's over 100 super labs in Mexico right now that produce these drugs and that continue to pour into our country, mostly through our southern border.
Since 2013, China has been the principal source of the fentanyl flooding the U.S. illicit drug market, fueling the deadliest drug epidemic in U.S. history.
Over 107,000 deaths of what I consider poisonings directly related to the cartels. According to the Drug Enforcement Administration, 1 out of every 4 pills in this country right now is a counterfeit pill.
Many of the victims aren't addicts and may not even realize they're ingesting something deadly.
And so you have the surge in deaths in the young population, mostly in college-age students, which might not necessarily be drug addicted or just experimenting with a pill. They take one, it happens to be a counterfeit pill full of fentanyl, and they overdose on it.
Part of that problem lies in how difficult it is to spot the fakes.
It's very difficult. I mean, these counterfeit pills are very well done. These they call them pill mills in Mexico. One of the most popular ones is the M30. It's a blue pill. It's probably one of the most that is highly recognized. But you have counterfeit pills of Adderall, Oxycontin, you name it, that look exactly like the real one.
It's not just fentanyl. Meth is also high on the list.
And let's not forget the meth. As I travel around the country, the methamphetamine is a huge impact on a lot of communities, especially when it comes to crime and the crime associated with that highly addictive drug. And I've seen it in towns that most people will not expect to the meth where it's ending up, and that's states like South Dakota and Montana as well.
According to the CDC, deaths from meth rose to nearly 33,000 in 2021. That's up from 24,500 in 2020. But it's not just a threat to economic well-being or to the lives of Americans. The commission says it's also one of the most pressing national security challenges. As the U.S.-China Economic Security Review Commission, or USCC, noted, China is now the primary country of origin for illicit fentanyl and fentanyl-related substances trafficked into the United States. According to the Mexican Defense Department, more fentanyl is getting confiscated by federal agents too. Seizures of the drug soared by over 500% from 2019 to 2021. Casey Fleming suggests there's an even darker motive behind the drug trade, saying it's all part of the regime's goal to weaken the U.S. as an adversary.
The CCP believes that they should never really have to go to a full-on conflict or conventional war because the adversary is weakened so much by hybrid warfare means.
And as to the national response,
so it's a big, big impact that it has throughout our country, but somehow our elected officials are not getting that picture of the alert. And I believe it's a national security and public safety issue because China is directly involved, and we know the issues that we have with that country.
But how can we defend against the onslaught? Ray Schlick says the report provided 76 different possible approaches. Understanding the demand for opioids is one of them. But Avila also notes being able to recognize the new risks as a major factor.
So it's very hard, I would say, to educate your kids and let them know that this is not the same as 20 years ago where you try to experiment with the drugs, that nowadays you're playing Russian roulette with these drugs because even the marijuana is sometimes laced with fentanyl. We have a lot of other drugs, cocaine and heroin, that are laced with fentanyl and causes a lot of issues.
Over on Capitol Hill, how will the administration and other leadership address the problem?
We've got this dichotomy on how we approach things where we're trying to, we recognize it's a health issue and we're trying to make sure that people are treated for this health issue, but at the same time we're trying to punish it and stop people from getting involved in it. And that makes it very difficult for criminal law.
Ray Schlick says he believes the current administration will lean towards looking at the issue as a medical problem. He went on to say that in his view, that may be part of the solution, but tightening standards at the border should also be part of it. Avila says starting with the border can help solve the problem in other areas too.
Ultimately, it comes down to that. A lot of the ripple effect that we see is coming down to securing the border. It's not just about illegal immigration. It's about the this national security issue when it comes to China, when it comes to terrorism. Just like the individuals that want to come in here know that the border is open, so does these special interest groups know that the border is wide open through Mexico.
He says stopping it doesn't have to be a complicated process.
We don't need to invent new laws. We don't need to pass new legislation. We just need to let our Border Patrol agents down at the southern border actually enforce our immigration laws, allow them to do that, and implement the policies that we're working, like Remain in Mexico policy, where individuals will remain on the other side of the border and await their asylum claims. As we know, most of these individuals do not qualify for asylum rescue. So there's a lot of things that we could do, and implementing that right away in policy would make a great impact. It's just unfortunate that our elected officials are not moving in that direction.
Pennsylvania Republican Representative Scott Perry suggests another way to tackle the issue. He's urging the Biden administration to designate the Chinese Communist Party as a transnational criminal organization.
Now, people will tell you, well, we can't label a party a transnational criminal organization. Sure we can. Why? What's stopping us from doing this? Well, the party's in control of the country. It's a criminal organization. It's a criminal enterprise. We wouldn't shirk from our responsibility with the mafia if they were conducting criminal activity in our country and abroad that affects our country. Yet somehow with China we can't seem to do it.
Congressman Perry called the Chinese Communist Party a criminal organization involved in illegal acts. Back in October 2020, he introduced a bill to designate the CCP as such and to eliminate sovereign immunity for Chinese officials. That would allow them to be tried in U.S. court for criminal prosecution.
The reason is that people are greedy, and the Chinese market is huge, and everybody wants the cash associated with the Chinese market. Sooner or later, we're going to have to deal with China and their market.
At the same time, he makes a clear distinction between the communist regime and the Chinese people living under it.
It's not the Chinese people that we take issue with. It is the communist, the ruling party in China. But they're just a political party, and they're conducting criminal activities, and somebody needs to do something about it.
He says the administration could make the designation on its own, but explained it would be an even stronger measure for Congress to vote on it than send it to the president for signing. Without stemming the tide of the deadliest epidemic in America, more people will fall prey to these tiny pills. It's not just a drug issue or a border issue, but one involving the national security of an entire nation. Until changes happen, the Chinese regime will continue to quietly exert its influence and work towards what some have called weakening the U.S. from within, without even needing to step foot inside our borders. That's all for today's China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. If you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at chinainfocus@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching and see you tomorrow.